captured. To open this evening, I'd like to welcome Councillor Larrabee to read our acknowledgement.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As we meet today, I would like to take a moment to recognize the importance of the land on which we are gathered. The municipality of West Nipissing respectfully acknowledges that we are located on the homelands of the Anishinaabe people, on the traditional territory of the Nipissing, Temagami, and Dukis First Nation, covered by the Robinson-Huron Treaty. We honor and recognize their historical connection to the land and value their significant contribution in shaping and strengthening our communities. We do this to reaffirm our commitment and responsibility toward reconciliation and improving our understanding of local Indigenous people and their culture.
Thank you very much, Councillor Larrabee. Number 2 on the agenda, I will take declarations of pecuniary interest. Councillor Rivard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Declaring a pecuniary interest for item 5.1.4, the trailer licensing bylaw. I handed over the paperwork to Melanie Dushine.
Thank you very much. Councillor Nicol.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm declaring on item 5.1.1.
Thank you, and we have received, the clerk has received your paperwork as well. Oh, I have.
Okay.
I have it by email.
Okay.
She probably just sent it to you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Excellent. Next, we will move on to adopting the addendum.
It is moved by Councillor Ferrand and seconded by Councillor St. Louis. Be it resolved that the addendum for the Council and Committee of the Whole meeting held on February the 4th, 2025 be adopted as presented.
Addendum was sent by the Deputy Clerk this afternoon. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Carried. Thank you.
It is moved by Councillor St. Louis and seconded by Councillor Ferrand. Be it resolved that the agenda for the Council and Committee of the Whole meeting held on February the 4th, 2025 be adopted as presented.
Questions, comments? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next, we move to item 4, delegations and petitions. So the addendum this evening did add a delegation in regards to the Tomico Fire Hall. For that, I would like to welcome Ms. Irene Govis and Mr. Charles Vlasic to present to Council.
Thank you. Through your worship. My name is Irene Govis. I am a permanent resident, 1465 Tomico Road, and I was a seasonal resident for 16 years prior to that. We have septic systems, drilled wells, road maintenance, garbage pickup only, no recycle pickup. I pay over $4,000 in taxes every year, and that's pretty common for our neighborhood. And some of our neighborhood is here. I have always been okay with this situation for the privilege of living amongst an old growth forest and beautiful Tomico Lake. Having a fire station in my neighborhood was a bonus and has always left me with a very strong sense of safety. During your council meeting, January 23rd, 2025, Fire Chief Laughlin reported on the Fire Master Plan Update Information Report to Council regarding recommendations made by Bear Integrated Solutions. Of the many recommendations made, the closure and sale of Tomico Station Number 3 is what brings me here today. This recommendation also states that a comprehensive study should be conducted to evaluate the age and options of the current stations. At one point in the discussion, a council member, and I'm really sorry, I could not get the name, I was watching it on YouTube and it went by way too quickly. But one of your esteemed council members asked the chief this question, and I quote, "Did we get feedback from the people around there? Is the station active? Does the truck go out if there is a fire?" The fire chief's response, and I quote, "There is a pickup truck and portable pump. I have 2 members, but one is gone for the winter." To answer your question quickly, no. My interpretation of that response, I would like to repeat to you. Did we get feedback from people? No. Is the station active? No. Does the truck go out? No. I was very taken back by the fire chief's response, as I was not aware of the fact that the pump and truck were not accessible to the residents of the surrounding area. It is plowed out, it is maintained in the summer and in the winter, so I had absolutely no idea that no one was taking care of business there. This recent knowledge regarding the status of the station has prompted me to notify my insurance company and inform them that Tomico Fire Station is not functional. They informed me that if a fire had occurred in my home prior to me notifying them regarding the current status, I may not have been covered. There seems to be a lack of communication, which fosters a false sense of security. The Fire and Emergency Services Master Plan has identified Crystal Falls at a greater risk of a forest fire. Tomico Road is one way in and the same way out. The acres of dead trees along the road leave the residents in a very vulnerable predicament should a fire break out. It was noted that the recommendation to sell the station was targeted as critical. It is my understanding that this means it should happen between 1 to 12 months. It is without saying council would benefit from the sale of this station, but please consider the impact this will have on the residents. There has been much discussion amongst my neighbors in regard to the potential sale of Tomico Station. Please give us the opportunity in a public forum to voice our concerns and or possible solutions before this council makes any decisions. In conclusion, will the council agree to hold a public meeting to address the concerns of the residents affected by the potential closure and sale of Tomico Station 3? Will the council send notification to all residents, permanent and seasonal, regarding the said meeting? And will council perform a comprehensive study to evaluate options for Fire Station 3? It is our hope for positive action regarding this issue. Thank you for your time. This concludes my comments, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. There's one more presenter, and then we can ask questions at that time. Councillor Larrabee.
Thank you.
Mr. Vlasic.
Hi, my name's Chuck Vlasic. I didn't prepare too much. I was just kind of a last minute request for me to attend as well. We've all been talking about the situation with the Tomico Fire Station for quite some time since we heard about it. I've been here for 5 years now up at Tomico Lake. I'm retired from the Halton Regional Police for 37 years. So I work quite often with fire departments. I know the importance that fire departments play in our communities. And to think that, you know, we're going to have our fire hall taken away is some concern. Now, I know there's problems right now with volunteers and not having enough volunteers, people to man it. But my other concern is that there was talk about selling the fire hall and the land, which is something that I believe we should keep because we may have volunteers in the future, and then we need a fire hall. And we need a better plan as to what we're going to do if we take down that fire hall. We are members of the West Nipissing community, and we pay taxes, lots of taxes. And we want to, we need to have a better plan. We need the fire department or the council to come up with better plans than we're going to shut down your fire hall and just drive up from Sturgeon Falls if there's a fire. And and this is what I think we need some sort of meetings, whether they're private, whether they're open. I think we're going to have more than one meeting to get this settled because this is a serious issue. And we can't just let it go and say, you know, cross your fingers and hope there isn't any fires in the future. So if on behalf of everybody here, that's what we'd like is a meeting or multiple meetings.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor, please.
If you'd like to just stay up at the podium, I will invite council to ask any questions they may have. So Councillor Larrabee.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to thank you, Irene, for sending me the email. Gave me some food to think about. Okay, and also now, Chuck, thank you for being here. Most of our fire stations been built prior to being amalgamated by volunteers that cared for their community, like we have in River Valley, like we have in most of our area. And I think we owe it to the citizen, and I want to apologize because I'm chair of the emergency measures. So I think it was I should have better prepared for this and let the people know. So I am definitely in favor of having a public meeting, but you have to remember that we do have the numbers, the information, but it's still something that we cannot just ignore and plow through. There are some concerns, and we should hear the concerns. And if there's no difference in the services, this could be explained at a public meeting, but now you don't know. You were just told that we're closing your station and thank you, ma'am. And that is not right, because like I said, those are volunteers that build them, most of them. And they deserve better. So I want to apologize. And I would like to, if, Madam Mayor, if we could refer it to this subject
Well,
further down the line.
we're doing, right now, we're just having the discussion with the delegation. So the first item on our committee of the whole this evening is Tomico.
Yep.
So at that time, we can discuss what the next steps would be. So that would be a more appropriate time to bring that up.
Okay.
And but that's our next part of the discussion, right? When we're doing the delegation.
Thank you. So this is my.
Okay, Councillor St. Louis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I guess this would be to the chief. Which station would be closer to respond to Tomico for ETA? Would it be Field or here?
So you have Crystal Falls,
Crystal Falls, yes.
and with any confirmed structure fire, you will also be dispatching Station 1 here, as well as Station 4 out of field.
And Crystal Falls from the Tomico station is approximately how many kilometers?
Okay, sorry, Councillor St. Louis, if we could save those more technical questions for, because I know it's complicated because we're doing the
It was in
delegation, right?
regards to that, but that's fine.
Well,
Yes,
yeah,
that's fine.
but do you know what I mean? Like, so if we can discuss the actual
Okay.
report in committee of the whole, if you have quick questions specifically for Ms. Govis or Mr. Vlasic right now, and then we can delve into some of the more specific questions when we go into the discussion in committee of the whole. Sorry, Councillor Ferre.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I'd like to thank you both for coming today. It's very helpful for me and for all of us to hear your viewpoint. You mentioned the feedback that you got from your insurers. I'm wondering if you, sir, had some feedback also, and whether some members of your community has already shared some feedback that they may have received from their insurance companies if that station was no longer there.
I'm sorry, that question was for me?
Both, either of you.
I moved up here 5.5 years ago. When I spoke to my insurance company at that time, they had concerns that the fire department here wasn't accredited. And they didn't recognize Tomico, but recognized Crystal Falls.
Okay.
So that I was within whatever it was, 15 kilometers or something that they said to be in a fire station.
And are you aware of other feedback that other members of your community might have gotten following the news that this might be happening?
So we are not a committee, we are a neighborhood. We
Yeah.
found, I listened to your meeting as of January 25. I passed on the information in terms of what might be happening. And we really haven't even discussed. Insurance has come up by many of our neighbors, but again, it's all just, we're just chitter chatter. Everyone's really nervous. And we want to get together as a whole to discuss everything if we can come into an open forum and have those discussions. I just contacted my insurance company the other day, and when I explained the situation, the frightening thing about that is I don't know how long that fire station was not operational. So from the time it has not become operational until I changed my policy, I may not have been covered. There would have been an investigation, and they would have discovered that, well, yeah, but in your policy, it says you're only 7 kilometers away from a fire station, less than 7. It's right down the road from me. And that was very, very frightening. I'm sure there's many, many of the neighbors that are in that situation. So I was only speaking on my behalf in terms of what had happened to me. I've upped my insurance. I mistakenly, because I'm not sure who's going to respond to my fire, but what I did say is the closest one would be Crystal Falls, which would be within 25 and 30 kilometers. And is that even correct? That might not even be correct information. So maybe I need to speak with the fire chief about where exactly I should be saying. Is it coming from Sturgeon or is it coming from Crystal Falls? Because clearly the one in Tomico is not functional. That leaves us very vulnerable.
Thank you.
Other questions for our delegates? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much for your emails. I did receive emails from several of the residents over the last couple of days, and I'm happy to see that that you were all here this evening. I thank you for reaching out to us, and as I said, we'll be moving into committee of the whole, and the first item for discussion will be the Tomico fire station. So please stay, and we will continue to ask some questions and get some clarification on the issue, and we can connect again after tonight's meeting as well. So I'd like to thank you both for taking the time to make the presentation, and thank you to everybody who took the time to come and attend in person. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we will move on to number 5, which is our committee of the whole discussions for this evening. Under general government 5.1, the first item for discussion is the Tomico Fire Hall. There is an information package in the agenda, so I will pass it to Mr. Harbaugh.
Thank you, Your Worship. So you do have a memo that was prepared by the fire chief and municipal clerk talking about whether, if council were to adopt the recommendation to close Station 3, then, you know, what to do and declare the land surplus. But given what is happening, or the definite interest of the residents, my recommendation to council is, prior to getting into the weeds with respect to that, is to discuss whether you wish to add an additional or multiple steps to have some sort of a forum with the affected residents to talk about that and get their feedback, and have that added to a report so that you have more fulsome consideration. So my recommendation is perhaps refer this or defer this if council wishes to acquiesce and to agree to our presenters to schedule a community meeting to discuss their concerns and receive all of their concerns to be addressed in a report back to council.
Thank you for that, Councillor Pederi.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I remember at that time asking if the public was consulted and if the fire hall was active, and when you said there was just a pickup there, in my mind, I thought everybody around knew about it. But it's a little bit deceiving hearing this tonight and this afternoon. I was actually thinking about this. Being rural, they always ask you how far you are from the fire hall, and this is a big step in your insurance premium. So I would definitely support looking more into it. I don't know what we can do maybe to make it, I shouldn't say a real fire hall, but in the eyes of the insurance, you know what I mean? Just investigate a few ideas. Thank you.
Councillor Larrabee.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A question for our chief. Has this report taken into account from Bears, the consultant? If removing this station, I know it's not active now and it's like it's not there, but by removing it permanently, are the resident insured through the Tomico, does it cover that 5 kilometer or 5 mile radius? Because there is a limit on how far you can be from a fire station.
So to answer your question, Councillor Larrabee, the fire insurance underwriters evaluate the distances from the halls. One of the common questions is, are you within 5 kilometers, 8 kilometers, 10 kilometers from a station?
Yeah.
In order for that station to qualify, it needs a pumper that's a minimum of 850 gallons per minute capacity and a minimum of 10 personnel to be able to respond to the call. In this case, we do not have that with Tomico.
Okay, thank you. So I would like to make a motion to defer this subject so we can address it with the public, so the public would be at ease. If we keep it or we close it, at least the public would know exactly all the information and the do's and don'ts. And in this situation, it doesn't seem to change the situation if we close it because it's not active. There's no fire protection, as one pickup truck doesn't cut it, and there's no members. But just that people need to realize that, and probably, like, I'm in support of having a public hearing so that people could address and see what they need, and then we could come back to this table and make a decision.
Yeah, Councillor Navarre, I'm just going to get comments from everybody.
Sorry, I think Councillor Farah was first.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I'm just, through you, Madam Mayor, I'm just wondering, can we still have a discussion now, answer some questions now and just not make a decision? Because we do have a good majority of the people living in that area here. So we could still maybe get some information. So that then if we do move forward with the public consultation, kind of like we just had in our meeting about you becoming prepared with questions maybe for the consultation, since we have a lot of people who took the trip to be here. So I think it's still beneficial that we discuss some things, ask the chief some questions while we have them here, and I'm sure the public would appreciate that too.
Excellent. Do you have any questions for Chief at this time?
I'll let Councillor Farah handle it.
Okay, Councillor Ferre?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, when I read the report last week, I mean, my first thought was, why are we not doing public consultation? Because it's an important step and it affects the residents of that community. Now, there's one sentence in the report that concerns me slightly, and that's the one with regards to insurance. It says, the closure of Station 3 as it is unmanned would not have any effect on existing residents' classifications for insurance purposes, as they are already classified remote. Now, I shop my insurance every year, and I get the same question every year. How far are you from the nearest fire station? If I lived in your community, and I said, 2 kilometers, does the insurance industry know which stations are active or not active or qualify as a station? Is it possible that in the case of Mrs. Govis that she could possibly not have been covered because she thought she lived near a station, but the insurance company later says, well, you gave us false information? I mean, how does it work? And if we tell them we live near a station, how do they know whether that's correct or not, whether the station is active?
To you, Madam Mayor, to answer Councillor Farah's question, it's up to the insurance companies, and I'm not an insurance person. I'm not by no means an expert in the insurance companies. However, they are required to do some investigation as to the questions that they ask for the coverage that they're providing. Fire underwriters, as I said, they're a recognized program that many of the insurance companies will review to see what the rating is for different areas of municipalities. In this case, the mapping shows that that area is classified as a level 5, which is basically no fire protection, even though there's a station.
Who classifies that?
The fire underwriters.
Okay.
And they're the resource, if you would, that insurance companies, a lot of insurance companies will go to estimate what your insurance rating premiums are going to be. So whether the insurance company actually checked in on that or is just following up, okay, you live 5 kilometers from a fire hall, and not asking the question whether it's a manned fire station or whether it's a active fire station, you could potentially turn around and tell your insurance company, yeah, there's a garage that I'm pretty sure is the fire hall, and then the onus goes on you as to whether you're.
How would the public be expected to know whether a fire station is active or not? I mean, clearly, a lot of these people didn't know that it was inactive. Wouldn't the onus be on the insurance companies to do their due diligence? And they have sources of information, obviously. Is it up to them to go and so I'd like to understand and maybe, have we consulted like an insurance specialist? I'd like to ascertain whether people are at risk if they say there's a station 2 kilometers from me and it turns out that that's an inactive station. Are they at risk?
They're not lying. Station is there. Not active.
Well, if we don't have that knowledge here, maybe we should get that knowledge from a specialist. Because before we make a decision that may impact coverage or the fact whether they're covered at all if there's a fire, we need to understand how that works.
To another point, Madam Mayor, I can easily get that information.
Just be helpful to understand what the impacts are. Sorry, I just have one question because I'm looking at the tables here, Chief, and so it's not a big question. Is 2 Crystal Falls?
Which page are you on, Madam Mayor?
Oh, sorry, page 17 of the agenda. So 2 is Crystal Falls, Station 2?
Correct.
Okay.
Station 2 is Crystal Falls. Next one over is Station 3, Tomico.
How far is the Crystal Falls Station? I don't know whether you'd give me as the crow flies or on a road from Tomico.
So from what I just overheard, estimation is about 12 kilometers between those 2 stations.
Okay, Councillor Rivard?
Thank you. Yeah, I just looked it up there. It's about like anywhere from 14 to 16. It's difficult there like that.
Yeah.
But my follow-up question was just, because I'm seeing if there's Station 3 and Station 2, and then I'm looking at, I know it's unrelated to Tomico, but then Kipling Deer Lake, there's no station for 20 kilometers. So it kind of, like, it just makes me wonder, so is that acceptable on a fire standard distance, right? To be Station 2 would cover all of Tomico Lake.
And again, to answer your question through you, Madam Mayor, Mr. Rivard, that's going to be dependent on the insurance companies. They go through their list of questions, and some of the questions, a lot of insurance companies now are looking at the fact of whether they're Superior Tanker Shuttle certified. So that's another component that plays into it. So there's the distances, there's what coverage may be available, whether there's automatic agreements. So in short, it goes back to the insurance company to ask the proper questions.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, just because the follow-up comment would be that it looks like, just based on our large geographical area, right, with people living all over, it's difficult to have stations within 3 kilometers, 7 kilometers of everyone. So it seems like the Kipling area, I'm thinking Cache Lake, Clear Lake as well, or even that Verner, Laving area, there's some long distances that have to be traveled by our fire, but I understand at one point you can't have stations.
Well, I'm in that area, about 14 kilometers from Verner though, on Deer Lake, on the other side of the lake. So, again, what I answered Councillor Fadin is that, and I have connections in that industry that are well placed in underwriting. So I'll get that general information for council. But as I recall, when getting my original insurance, obviously there was inside wet certified and all that stuff, but there was, it was the broker who sold me the insurance who was helping fill out that and getting me the appropriate information so that my coverage would match the provider. That's, I think, what our fire chief is saying. Having said that, it is something that we can't just make an assumption here. And trust me, when somebody's premiums and the ability of not being covered is taken care of. So I would prefer, as instead of being anecdotal, to get you the appropriate information from the industry and then have that available to council and to the public.
Thank you.
Councillor Larrabee?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So at this point, no matter how you look at it, we don't have any volunteers in that area. And to say, well, okay, I'm going to volunteer, it's a lot more demanding than just saying, well, I want to volunteer. There's a lot of courses and they're mandatory, months, every weekend that's going to be taken to do that. So time and loss of interest brought us where we are today. Okay, so to say, well, maybe someday there will be, encouraged to join, it's kind of hard too, because their council is stuck between what we're faced with and we have the information. And so, but I'm still in favor of hearing. Is this mostly Tomico or there's still some? Oh, okay, there's still some.
Couldn't come in here.
Councillor Larrabee?
Okay, excuse me.
Sorry.
I'm not supposed to address that. Sorry, Madam Mayor.
Sorry.
Yes, so I'm still in favor of having a public meeting. So
Are there any other comments or questions from our members of council? I'm hearing, Councillor Restal, always like to be last.
No, you can be last this time, Madam Mayor. Just for my clarity, and I'm okay with supporting a public session just to share information and probably share information both ways. I'd like to hear what the residents have to say and their concerns about this issue, but I think even just tonight in our discussions we've had here so far has shared or provided me with some information that I wasn't aware of. And just I guess a question for clarity for myself. Chief, through you, Madam Mayor, question for the chief. You mentioned that in order for generally with insurance that we would need a minimum of, I think you said, a pumper truck plus 10 individuals there ready to go for it to have an impact generally on insurance. So that's, I guess, first question. The second is, if we were to keep things status quo and if things were to stay the same, now that we're being provided with more information, the residents are being provided with more information, if it was status quo, it wouldn't positively impact their insurance situation if it does stay status quo. I'm thinking, because we need more equipment there, more than just a pickup truck, and we need more individuals there. Is that fair to say?
You, Madam Mayor, Councillor Restal, you are correct in your assumptions. If we stay status quo, it's not going to increase the fact that we're having this council meeting tonight with these questions. Any insurance companies or residents that are paying attention will also see this, and the rating is still going to stay the same unless we increase the membership and also increase the equipment that is stationed there.
Thank you for the response. And I just share my final comment. I think based on the information provided here, and I'm not jumping far ahead, I'm just trying to clear things in my mind here. If we need to purchase pumper truck, because we probably need to purchase a new vehicle, we probably have to build a new building to house this new infrastructure. We're looking at a very, very considerable cost. And I won't get too far ahead. I just wanted to share that point, that it's not as simple as just keeping this one bay pickup truck station open. That isn't going to change anything positively for insurance purposes. There'd be a massive investment needed in that area for this to really get up to standard for where it would positively impact insurance purposes. So I just wanted to share that, my thought on that. I appreciate the opportunity, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Councillor Gagne, is that your yellow hand up?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Thank you. To Mr. Lufin, how many volunteers currently at the Tomico fire station?
We have one volunteer at the Tomico station.
How many calls in the last 1 year, 3 years, and 5 years at the Tomico station?
So through the data when they were doing the fire master plan, the annual average for Station 3 Tomico was 0.75 of the total calls for the municipality of West Nipissing.
So could you give me a number about how many calls per year that would be?
So one controlled burning, and this is based from 2021 to 2024 when we were collecting the data, and one false fire call, for a total of 2 calls since 2021.
Thank you. Thank you for that information. I remembered the data. I just thought that there was 2 volunteers. Now you've confirmed that there's 1. I'll be honest, I don't mind doing the public consultation or getting feedback from the resident of that area, but I think the writing's on the wall. I don't like to kind of to move forward. I think the chief has shared with us the master plan. He has shared us the data in regards to the information and the reasoning why we had received a recommendation to close Station 3. I think it would be wise for the residents to actually maybe call their insurance company to see if there's a fire station 14 kilometers from my resident, what's the impact on my cost, my insurance. But I don't believe at this moment it's looking favorable that we will man a fully housed fire station at number 3. That would be my comments, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Gagne. Anybody else before I close? Okay, I actually just have one question for you, Chief. Are there any other stations besides Station 3 that would fall under that same classification, like within our municipality of a station that's not really a station, or a station that doesn't count for insurance purposes? Because I think that's the information that's really important for residents who may have stated, yes, I live within whatever distance. So is there any other station that falls under that station but not a station classification?
So right now, you're also looking at Station 9, and Station 2 falls within that category as far as the what is classified as a dwelling protection grading under the Fire Underwriters Insurance Bureau.
So 2 is Crystal Falls and 9 is Cache Bay?
Yes.
And Crystal Falls, it's because of the equipment that's housed there? Because
Correct.
you have 12 volunteer. Oh, no, that's calls. I'm sorry.
4 volunteers there right now.
Okay.
And 1 mini bumper.
And Station 8, which is North Manettville?
Station 8 is North Manettville.
And there's 8, only you have 8 volunteers listed there?
When this survey was done, yes.
Okay, and are you at the 10 minimum there now?
No.
Thank you. Okay, I just, because I think that's a concern. I think my biggest concern in this discussion coming forward is that, like, I'm happy we have the fire master plan now. I think there obviously is some work to do to modernize our fire services municipality. But I think my concern is the communication with residents as to what the status of the stations is and how that may impact them. Because we have people here from Tomico this evening But I wonder when you're looking at some of the other stations that are undermanned or under-equipped as far as being considered stations that aren't stations, how many other residents are impacted similarly? I would be in support in having an information session before we take a step such as closing a station that serves our residents. And, you know, like this is the first of probably several difficult discussions that we're going to have over the next little while in regards to the fire service coming out of the fire master plan. And they're not easy discussions to have. And as Councillor Rivard referred to, we are challenged with such a huge geography at being, you know, over 2,000 or almost 2,000 square kilometers and 15,000 residents. You know, it is really hard to adequately serve everybody, but I personally would be in favor of hosting an information session for the residents of Tomico, and I would like to see whether I've heard that others would be as well, but I'd like to see just by a show of hands who would be in favor of doing that before we proceed with discussions. For the discussions, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Do you need formal direction from staff, or can we move forward and some kind of information?
We'll organize it when it likely won't take place for approximately a month and a half, just so that you know, in terms of for us to organize it.
Okay.
There's also, again, some very good information given the questions with regard to insurance and liability. And so I'd like to have a more fulsome report so that, and it wouldn't go to waste with respect to, as you indicate, other stations. So we're looking at the 4th of February now, and so we're kind of fairly full with respect to February. It'd likely be March.
Okay.
But it won't be closed before that.
There won't be any decision made until an information session is held. Staff will work on coordinating that, and I will communicate directly with the proponents that have contacted me when that information becomes available, as well as it being posted on our website for the public. Does that sound like a fair closure to this discussion?
Thank you.
Any other comments before we move on? Councillor Gagne, is your yellow hand still up, or did you just not unclick your yellow hand?
I have a question, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Gagne.
Thank you. Are we requesting a public consultation or an information session? What are we requesting to staff? For me, it's not clear.
For me, the difference isn't clear. So if you could stipulate what the difference is between an information session or a consultation.
Well, an information session is on our side. We can bring up that we need minimum of 10 volunteers fully trained at that station. We need a pumper at that station. And we can look on our side to see what are the regulations as far as insurance or the zoning for insurance. And at the same time, the residents can look and contact their insurance company and see is there any difference between having a fire station 14 kilometers or 6 or 7 kilometers from their side? For me, that's an information session. As far as a public consultation, we'll have everybody to go there, and they're going to complain that we're shutting down their station and they're not happy about it. So that's why I'm asking, what are we actually doing here?
Are you looking at?
I'm looking at you because I wasn't sure that there was a difference.
Your worship, it's a bit of both. What I heard, and things that may feel evident in reports and what have you, certainly were not evident by the residents of the Tomico area. And so I think that what we were requested was for them to provide some feedback. I wouldn't make any assumptions necessarily on what that feedback is. And we would have then some information to share. And at the end of the day, as Councillor Larrabee indicated, it's this council that would be making a decision, but it was felt by this council that an additional step of contact and communication with the residents is warranted. And so how that framework will be, Councillor Gagne will put it together. and it'll be a bit of a give and take, I think.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Lee. Okay, with that, we will move on to the next item on the agenda this evening. We'll just take a brief pause to allow the members who've attended from Tomico to exit, because I'm sure they're not interested in the next 2 or 2.5 hours that we'll be discussing other random items, so. Thank you again. The next item on the agenda, 5.1.2, is local improvement Canal Road. There's a memo in your package, and I will pass the floor to Mr. Barbeau, who will likely pass it to Madam Clerk.
Okay.
Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, this is a follow-up to the local improvement petition, which was brought by the residents of Canal Road in the latter part of 2024 concerning the installation of water infrastructure along Canal Road between Dutrisac Road and Nipissing Street. Initially, a petition had been brought in, which petition did, based on the criteria under the regulation, meet the standard for 2/3 of the 50% of the owners and 2/3 of the assessment. However, the individuals who had signed the petition were unaware of the estimated cost of the work when they signed. So council staff was directed to go back to residents to inform them. Information was sent out to residents in early December, providing an estimate of the cost per household with regard to the proposed installation of the infrastructure. Residents were given until January the 8th to respond. During that time, 5 owners who represent a little over 1/3 of the frontage did ask to remove their name from the petition. They, coupled with those who had not signed in the first place, brought the petition to a standard where it met neither of the criteria for a local improvement and would not therefore be valid to proceed with the installation under that regulation.
Okay, thank you very much. Questions or comments on that? It really is just a report back on the way it all played out. Councilor Pellerian.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I was really pushing at a time so that people understand what they're signing, saying as a municipal drain. Having said that, was there other ways to look at it? Like there's 2 fairly sized business on that road. Was there a possibility that they could pay more and just be reimbursed at a later date if other people won't sign in? You know what I mean? Was there different drawings brought to?
I think the legislation on local improvements is set by the province, and it's very specific as to what the requirements are for it to meet a local improvement under that provincial legislation. I mean, I'm speaking and I think I'm right.
That's correct.
Yeah. And so this is the way it has to go. This is the way that it progresses. And if it doesn't meet the criteria, then it's no longer valid because it is done through provincial legislation and not.
Je comprends pour la pétition, ça prend 2/3.
What?
Mais est-ce qu'on a expliqué aux gens que si vous signez, si toi tu ne veux pas rentrer, tu ne seras pas sur le hook, mais quelqu'un d'autre peut payer ta partie. Puis se faire rembourser plus tard si quelqu'un paye pour ça. Tu sais, si quelqu'un veut vraiment l'avoir, mettons une grosse business, va dire, OK, c'est 100 000 $ de plus, whatever, OK, je vais la payer ça, Puis, vous allez me rembourser un jour si toi tu veux connecter ou si tu vends le terrain puis quelqu'un d'autre veut connecter. Vous savez ce que je veux dire?
Yeah, but understand that when the cost is given to the homeowners, like for the local improvement, that is based on every household contributing their fair share, both those who have signed and those who have not signed. So if they meet the 2/3 of owners and 50% of frontage, 100% of owners and 100% of frontage is going to be charged for that improvement. So if you then back it off and say, well, the people who haven't signed or don't want to do it, don't have to, it will then increase the costs,
Yes.
quite substantially for those who do want to go through the process. So I think that's the other challenge, is that the cost then changes for everybody if it's not done through the local improvement process.
And through you, Madam Mayor, I will respond to Councillor Pelletier's comment. The council can impose a fees and charges bylaw as it chooses at any given time. Under the criteria that this one was brought, it has to be applied the way I explained. Council could, under a different scenario, elect to do something like you had indicated, where, put it in and then, although I don't believe that is the optimal way, it basically makes the municipality the bank, and that's not our core business, banking. Our business is taking care of residents. So, you could be collecting money back for 30 years, depending on if people, sign up or don't sign up. So, that's why I believe this legislation is in place, because it provides a very clear-cut way of applying the rules, and either it meets or it doesn't.
It would be in their ballpark if they want to try and organize something like that.
Yeah.
I just thought I'd bring it up. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Larrabee?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, we've tried a few years back with council didn't go through. Now with the local improvement like this, it was in the hands of the resident. And with this price that they were given, it did not take into account the drill and blast, only what it's also, that would have been very expensive. So by them refusing themselves, then it's not a decision of council, it's their decision. But I would like for the municipality to keep an eye on if there's any grants that would be available down in the future, if we could apply for it, if it does come up, so we could help these people, because they do need help. The businesses are, they are paying very, very expensive insurance, and it would help them in a big way if we could help them this way through grants. Or if ever council decides to change their mind and proceed with that section. Because there is also an issue in that area where there's no loop. It's a dead end, and dead end are not favorable to the ministry. Since it's there already, they'll accept it, but it's not favorable. So so that's what we have to keep in mind also. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Larrabee. Councillor Gagné?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Just one quick question. I did talk to a few residents on the Canal Road, and one resident asked me if it's possible to, if we would have any plans to apply for a water loop extension in that area, to maybe hold off on the road improvement, because I know it's planned for ditching this year, and I think kind of resurfacing or gravel layer after that. And to see if we can maybe entertain maybe an application for a water loop in that area, which would give us a grant and lower the cost of bringing that water in there. So I don't know what the process is, or if that's a possibility, but that's my questions that were asked from a few residents in that area.
Well, I would address.
You can address that.
Well, I would think, and I will allow you or anybody else to correct me if need be, that kind of funding for that type of project would be in the same funding envelopes as other water and sewer expansion projects, of which we have some higher priority projects on the go. So like that would be my only concern is that right now we have big issues with burner, and we're, trying to approach getting funding for that. And I would imagine that as far as the provincial government's concerned, they would fall under the same type of funding envelopes. And so to have two kind of projects, but that would be my thought on it initially, is that there's not a lot of money for water and sewer infrastructure, for that type of water and sewer infrastructure, and we have bigger fish to fry kind of thing at this time.
No, it's, so, all of these grants are not, the government releases different grants, and they're kind of competitive bids, and there's pools of money. And as the mayor is indicating, there is a pool of money that may qualify, except that we have other much larger priorities. In fact, the priority is the burner system in order to get that done. And so once we make those applications, we can't have competing applications from the same municipality. And so we have to go with what brought us. The other thing too is engineered. Things have to have plans developed in our proposals. And so we're already ready to go with this fund with our burner plan. With our burner project. So it's a good idea, we just can't do it. Councillor Guy.
Okay, thanks for the info, much appreciated.
Councillor Restoval?
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor, I'm just echoing your comments and the CEO's comments, and I'd also draw us back to our strategic plan document that we developed, and Verner was a priority in terms of water, a water issue that we're focusing on as this council. And I really wouldn't want to divert from that and miss out on, funding opportunities and push the Verner water issue even further down the road. So just wanted to bring us back to our strategic plan on it, and just agree with the last two comments.
Thank you very much, Councillor Restoval. Anybody else have questions or comments before we close this item? Thank you very much, Madam Clerk, and I'm sure that Ms. Willock in the planning department was likely involved with some of the communications. Whoever did the work to work through the local process, thank you. And there was a lot going on behind the scenes, so thank you for the work on that. Next item on the agenda, 5.1.3, is the OGRA, Ontario Good Roads Association conference delegation requests. Delegation request deadline is February 21st, so staff is looking for direction from council on issues that we may want to approach. I have one to start us off, but I'll leave it to everybody else. MTO might have some free time in their schedule now. One of my ideas was coming back to the Highway 64 and Principal Street four-way stop that we discussed, I'm going to say last summer. There was a discussion at this table at council that seemed to be in favor of supporting a four-way stop in that area, given its location near downtown and the school and the arena, and the speed of the traffic coming off Highway 17 into Highway 64. Also ties into Councillor Ferran's work on the community safety zones. But because Highway 64 is a provincial highway, the municipality is not at liberty to install stop signs at our whim, and it is something that we would need to have MTO. Thoughts, Mr. Purple?
Whatever's council's wish, that's fine.
Councillor Larrabee?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to also add for MTO is I know we're limited on time when we do our presentation to the ministers, but they did great work in River Valley this past summer. They've done an excellent job on the highway. beautiful job. The only problem is they didn't take into consideration the side of the road where the traffic parks, because they got their trucks, they got their trailers, because it's a tourist area, and then they have their boat in the back. So they just park to the side of the road, they go take care of their business either at the store or at the restaurant. And now with the ditch, I could show you pictures, I should have probably put them out there, but they've done a great big ditch, about 4 feet deep, right beside the road, hardly any shoulder at all, exactly where the traffic would park to do their business. So it would be nice to ask the MTO if they could put some pipes underneath where they did on one side of the road, if they could do it, same thing on the other side of the road, so the traffic could park on the side. So we could add this to the MTO.
Sure.
Is that an operational conversation that could be had, or is that something we would need to
Well,
advocate for?
I think they're all either operational or political, depending on, certainly, so I had a conversation with Councillor Larrabee prior to. Certainly, we can reach out to staff and see at MTO and see what's doable. But, you can also educate this way as well.
Councillor Perry?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, you just mentioned the four-way stop there in Vernon on Highway 64. Did we get an answer on this from the MTO? And if not, how long does it usually take?
Not aware, have to pass that on to Ms. Henning with respect to the MTO thing, did we?
No, we did not receive an answer. It could vary in time because they would probably want traffic counts and all sorts of things. So they'd be looking at that before they would give an answer. So, but no, we did not receive anything from them on that.
They do, sorry, I'll ask a follow-up question on that. For traffic counts on provincial highways, that's done by the MTO. It's not the same as us doing a traffic counts on our local streets.
Well, it's the same principle, but no, they do their own traffic counts.
On 64, it would be them doing, we don't have traffic counts
No,
on
we don't
64.
have traffic.
I have the same question, Madam Mayor. Thank you. I just wanted to ask, when did we actually apply? Or when did we make the request?
I'd have to check when it was made, but at some point last year it was made.
About 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any items they'd like to bring up the delegations? Thank you, Councilor.
Thank you, through you. I just see later on in the meeting, we're discussing to award the bid for Leclerc Road. Would it be too late to go and just have a delegation and ask for support to help pay for such a large infrastructure project like that? Like, would there be anything to lose in, getting a couple $100,000 towards the $1.7 million job that we're going to be doing this year? Or?
Well, through you, it seems like a big amount to us, but it really is our local needs, and I don't know what fund would be going towards that at the provincial government to provide assistance. There really isn't anything. We'd have to be very creative, and a little bit like the water application fund, without speaking too much, we're really working with MTO right now on some very high and very costly issues that affect our municipality and the province in common. So I wouldn't want to dilute things quite yet.
Thank you. Yeah, I was wondering about like it being kind of a secondary, just in case something happens on the highway, right? So I'm thinking when they changed that culvert, there was a lot more traffic, but if there is no way or any ministry that we can kind of, or like
those small amounts, there isn't really any real fund if you're a little bit like that. If you're competing with some of their great fund or their funding announcements and you're trying to go after it with those type of small amounts, I would never recommend that. Actually, I think we can actually afford it, and it's in our plan. There, if we ever got creative down the line, we could look at, attaching a farming angle or a farming community and economic development and that kind of thing. But right now we need to get the road done. So
Or the cycle track.
Anybody else? Okay, with that,
Yep, got it.
okay, wonderful, thank you very much. Next on the agenda is the trailer licensing bylaw. And there is quite a significant information package in the agenda. And I will pass it to Mr. Butler.
Well, I think that you have a report, and thanks to staff and for the request from Councillor Fedin to add the original report. This project and potential licensing bylaw was something that was raised in your term plan about bringing it back. Certainly, it created a lot of interest in the last council term, or probably even before that, but I think it was last council term. There was fairly extensive consultation. We had sessions that I did with staff there in council, and then we had another session more centralized as well. And so we are bringing this back on the table to each council's wish to pursue a trailer bylaw, and I'll leave it at that.
Okay. I'll open the floor for questions or comments. Councillor Fedin?
I was hoping somebody else would, because I have so many questions. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a couple of 3.15. Other than in accordance with section 3.15.
Can you just direct me, Councillor Fedin, where you're at?
In the proposed bylaw.
What number?
The draft bylaw, 3.15.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Okay.
Other than in accordance with section 3.15. Should it not be another?
I will have to check. I think it's the 3.16. I think it's just a typo.
Okay. And I think the cause, not cause.
Yeah, it's just a typo.
So I'm just curious about the legal non-conforming camping establishments that we have. I'm not too sure I know what they are. They operate commercially, or and do we know how many there are? Can you clarify that for me?
Maybe and no. We have a variety, through you, Madam Mayor, we have a variety of camping establishments or camping areas, and they fall into a kind of they run the gamut from a bunch of family members who have camped historically together for a long time to actual commercial activities being carried on kind of under the radar. And we know this, we receive pictures from Facebook and Kijiji and things like that where there's advertisements. And so yes, they run the gamut from, like I said, family as camping establishments to quasi-commercial. But they're all there and not on land that's zoned for that kind of activity.
And why would we not shut them down?
Currently, we don't have any, the bylaw that we have does not have any real teeth. And it's very difficult to prove a commercial activity is going on. And we don't have the authority to like ask for their income tax returns, or, you know, if they tell us it's friends, and we don't really have an ability to investigate.
And again, through you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to understand some of the reasoning behind some of the parts of the draft bylaw. Why not locate on agricultural?
The province is extremely prescriptive about permitted uses on lands that are protected for agricultural use. There are very prescribed activities and what they call on-farm diversified uses, which are businesses that support farming or are related to farming. Camping is not a non-farm diversified use as defined by the province.
Okay. And what about, so no license would be required to store a trailer. So does that mean that anyone who, let's say, uses a camping trailer for traveling, where they take their trailer and they go and they spend a month away, or they go to a trailer park and then they come back, park it at home? So does that mean that the bylaw would not apply to them and they wouldn't need a license because they're not actually using it on their property?
That's correct.
Okay. But we wouldn't really have a way of knowing for sure either.
Through Madam Mayor, we get reports if people are living in neighbors, we get reports if people are living in a camper on somebody's property.
And what's the definition of temporary occupation?
Temporary would be if your parents come from Sudbury for the weekend and they bring their trailer and they're just going to stay in your driveway for the weekend, or they're coming to your sister's coming from Alberta and she's going to stay at your place for 2 weeks in the summer. That's temporary.
I thought that was transient.
I think they're the same.
The same?
I think this might be an interchangeable use.
Okay. And my last question through you is for the chief. How many trailer fires have we had to respond to, let's say, on average in a year?
Through you, Madam Mayor, just the one last year that was due to a propane leak. I'm sorry, that's not a question. We haven't had any within the municipality that I'm aware of since I've started as the chief. Provincial average, I would have to take a look at it. The problem with trailer fire, so none that people were living in, if I might word it that way, that we've had in the municipality. That being said, provincially, I would have to look at some statistics. The biggest challenge with campers is they're highly flammable and it doesn't take long for them to burn up.
So by the time you get there, it's finished?
Yes.
Thank you.
In fact, I believe there was a fire resulting in a death in the municipality of French River last year. Somebody in an inhabited trailer, and that was I know, a very sad situation for them. So it's not unheard of, and we should be knocking on wood when Chief says we haven't had any, because they can be quite serious. I'm sorry.
That's all my questions. Thank you.
That's it. Okay, thank you so much, Councillor Ferrer. So, what does?
Mayor, I have a question.
Oh, sorry. Because
okay.
you're not doing this, I don't really see you because your yellow hand's in the corner. Councillor Gagne.
Right there.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. A bit in line with the Conseiller Ferrand's question, I am just the maybe to understand the bylaw a bit easier, would it be possible to create a table that explains R1, R2, R3, shoreline residentials, urban, and to indicate like what can you do and what can't you do? Like I had the same question in regards to if I'm in a urban or rural residential, like say in town, and I have my own trailer, can I store mine? If my dad has a trailer and he wants to store it at my place, can I store two? And then if my brother and my sister have one, well, if I've got the room, can I store them for those trailers on my property? But then if I have somebody that actually goes down south for the winter and wants to stay in the trailer from May to September, am I allowed to do that on my property? If I'm in an urban area like downtown Sturgeon Falls, for example. So I'm just wondering if a table with all those, that kind of like we did with the chicken bylaw. I think not that I want to bring back chicken bylaw, but at least it would help us. It would help me also to better understand what are we allowing and what aren't we allowing. What are the minimum, the maximums also. So that's my question, if it's possible. And if my question makes sense.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Gagne. Mr. Corbo.
Well, thanks for putting me on the spot. So I think that a little bit like the chicken bylaw, but we don't have any rules right now. But I think one of the issues to facilitate decision points for council is perhaps to have, because I do recall, the key points of consideration is how many, location, the licensing, the fees, the this, the that. And so if we, maybe we can, if council is in agreement that they want to pursue a licensing bylaw first, then we can then create kind of a discussion paper for the creation of that. Is that what you're?
I just want to clarify, and I think this is a two-pronged event. What I'm looking at here is a licensing bylaw, which would be the process by which we would get a handle on how many we have and where they're at. The actual regulation would take place under the zoning bylaw. The numbers per property, the how many, how long, close to the water, close to the lots.
Right,
this bylaw would only be for basically registering them.
Right. But do they want to undertake that without the other information as to whether they want to just register them and find out where they are, or do they want to go the whole thing? Because the last project that both of us painfully undertook had all kinds of where do the residents want this, and what were the key issues? And I think you can't just isolate licensing from the entire do we regulate it? Because the last council walked away from it because they didn't want to.
I wasn't intending to isolate it. I was just intending to have one discussion, make one decision, and then move on to the next part.
That's a little sneaky, but
Well, and I think that in some ways the discussion is timely because we are in the process of doing our official plan review and update, and from the official plan review and update, there will automatically be generated a new zoning bylaw that will match our new official plan. And this is a process that is underway now. Our planning committee is meeting at the end of this month to review kind of early drafts of the official plan. It will come to council. There will be public consultations. So the whole process is one that is ongoing. But if ever there was a time to address this from a zoning bylaw perspective, now is the time.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. That's correct. And the point of the licensing is without knowing where and how many trailers we have, the enforcement of any proposed regulation would not be possible because we would not know what was there, what's new, there's just no way to enforce a bylaw when you don't know where they are.
So what are you asking council to decide today?
The bylaw that's before you would be a bylaw to license campers. The question is, do we wish to move forward with a process to do that? And obviously council can determine what the timing is, but is council in favor of doing this?
Okay, Council Pedro.
Is it in the plans to go back to public meetings before we do that? Because should we, the we heard a earful, because I was at all those meetings.
Through you for the zoning portion, other statutory public meetings that are required.
For the
No, I mean-
licensing,
For
for the
licensing.
licensing bylaws.
Not if council wishes to do so.
Specifically for trailers, because I remember I was there too, and
That's a decision of council.
Counselor Nickel, thank you.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. I've heard both extreme sides of this conversation in my ward, but the main thing I've heard is people want to do public consultations again just because the information is from 2019 and a lot has changed. So I would be in favor with starting there and going from that point.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Counselor Larrabee.
Thank you. I remember the last sessions that we had. We took in the information from the resident. I would say about what I've done most of them. I'd say about 90% of the resident at the time were definitely against any trailer bylaws because trailers are considered self-contained. They have a gray water tank, holding tank, and also a black. Now, how you dispose of it, if they have what they call a honey wagon, they bring it to a site port, then there's no problem. So this is very dangerous because you could be forcing a law on some residents that are abiding by the law and having another fee with the money being tight. Every resident are feeling it. So to say, well, we're going to charge so much for a registration is, there comes a time that enough is enough. And also, as far as to have if there is an environmental impact on the ground, somebody throws their black water on the ground, and I see it, I will identify it to the municipality, not Joe. I will give the address where it happened. So as far as having a registration, knowing where they all are, I think it's far reach, in my view, because the ones that are abiding by the law, they have a trailer at home that or a friend or a neighbor uses it, and they're abiding by the law. There's no reason why they should register that trailer. Okay, there's nothing wrong. But if there is something happening, and also this is mandated by the province, and I think the province should be looking at this problem. Every time we do a budget, we always complain that the government is giving downloading services, always downloading. So we start with 3-4% because the government downloaded that service. And here we are asking that same government, yes, bring it down. We will enforce that law for you. It is the provincial government that should be looking into this, and they should be doing their job. So maybe at our delegation, this is one delegation that we could ask to speak with the Ministry of Environment and tell them, do your job, instead of us having to do it.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Federer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to touch upon a point that Councillor Larrabee raises is the license fee, and I think one of the points we have to consider is some of these, for example, these pop-ups, if they're on vacant land, and they're operating a business, and they have a trailer they live in all summer. I mean, obviously we're undercharging them in terms of taxation. And I think that anyone who has a trailer and uses it on a property is getting more value out of that property than they're being taxed for. So that's one aspect of the license fee that we should consider. The second point I had was the issue of consultation, and I think the consultation we did is 5 years ago. It's, things have evolved. But for me, the the main point that I'm concerned about is enforcement. Because if we're not going to enforce this bylaw, then I don't know what the point of it is. Because I don't want this to be another SDR bylaw. I don't think that unless people know that it's going to be enforced, I don't think that if we pass a licensing bylaw, that the next morning they'll be lining up outside the municipality to come and pay their license fee and register their trailers. Because I think we have a problem in this municipality where, we don't enforce bylaws very often unless there's a complaint, which then means that people don't respect our bylaws because most people don't complain about others. They don't complain about their neighbors. They don't want to be snitches. They figure that it's our job to enforce bylaws. It's not their job to do that. So if we're going to just treat it as we do all our other bylaws, I mean, just look at the amount of sea cans there are in town. Why is it that our bylaw officers are not knocking on these doors and saying, you've got a sea can, you're not supposed to have one? Or you have a trailer, why do you not have a license for it? So I would not be in favor of doing this unless we decide at the same time that we are going to enforce it actively.
Right, thank you very much, Councillor Fedden. So I've heard suggestions that before we do anything, there are councillors who are interested in doing a consultation process. I too feel that it's important because it was not this council outside of one member. None of us were here as members of council during those consultations. And, there's a lot of ins and outs and it really understanding how the licensing needs to work with the zoning bylaw and then, how to write the licensing bylaw where the zoning bylaw isn't always as enforceable as we would hope it would be. There's a lot to unpack in this particular piece and I think we need to hear, but I do agree as well that one of the unfair pieces is people not paying their share of municipal services. So if you have a trailer on a vacant property and you are paying permanently placed on a vacant property and you're paying vacant property taxes, I am certain that you expect Chief and his crew to show up if you do start a fire on your trailer. You are using the roads, you are using the garbage, and so it's those services are all being provided and they're being subsidized by other residents. So, I think there's a whole lot of intricacies to this. So Councillor Nichol put forward a suggestion to start with public consultations. And I'd just like to see the appetite from council on that, please.
Public consultation to all the municipalities, not just 3 or 2.
3. We're not doing 8.
Well, it will affect 8. It will affect the whole municipality.
Okay, so let's start with public consultations as a generality. And I saw Councillor Larrabee's hand up due to consultation. Which members of council would be in favor of doing some form of public consultation before we delve into this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Thank you. Okay. Now, Councillor Larrabee has put forward a suggestion that we should have one in every ward. I would like to say, well, and I guess we could do one for 1, 3, and 4 in Sturgeon. But all of that consumes staff time. There is an expectation that we need staff support out there. So I think we do need to be realistic on what the demands on staff time will be as well, because that is a lot to put on our staff when we already have several evening meetings.
We did, Madam Mayor, at the last term.
Well, I understand that.
I didn't.
Councillor Restwell?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I just wanted to share an opinion. I think we can be strategic in terms of where we have these sessions. I know you just suggested, 1, 3, 4 could be one. I'm not deciding here, but Field River Valley can be one. I don't think it's that far to travel to have a session. I'm not sure what turnout was for the last, because I wasn't here and I don't have a trailer, so I wasn't at these sessions, but I think we have enough on our staff's plates. I couldn't see a huge amount of people coming out in Ward 4 for one of these sessions. But I think we can be strategic. We have great minds around our administrative table to at least bring a potential schedule to us to say, here's 4 sessions or whatever the number is that makes sense geographically to have these sessions. I respect Councillor Nichols' point, and I agree with her as well. This was done 6 years ago, so maybe some things have changed. So it's good to have the session. I support going ahead with it, but I don't think we need 8 individual sessions. That's my opinion. I'd recommend or suggest that we get a recommended schedule from staff that we can look at and say, does this make sense to go ahead with?
Great.
If I may.
Thank you.
Thank you. I know by experience, I was there the last time, River Valley, the hall was full, Field, almost full. So to say, I do agree, 1, 2, 3, 4 could be together, definitely. But the strategic places, if you can't, I don't think you can put Field and River Valley in the same hall, you won't have enough place. So you need to have 2 meetings in that area. I don't know if Lavigne and Werner, if there's an appetite to join them, I don't know. But I know definitely that from experience that River Valley was a great concern and the hall was, had a lot of participant in it, and also Field. They had a lot of participant in it.
Thank you. So given that information, I would ask if staff could come back with a proposed plan for public consultation.
Sure.
And it doesn't have to include dates, but, maybe locations, how many we should do, whether there should be an online component.
Sure, we'll have a conversation at the staff level as to how we can pull it off. You mentioned, Madam Mayor, no dates, but you did mention, and rightfully so, I'm not arguing, that this is probably timely in terms of the season. And so we'll have that conversation in our post-council meeting, follow-up meeting tomorrow, and plan and bring it back at the next meeting.
Is that a satisfactory outcome for everybody as a starting point for us? Yes, Councillor Gagne, is that your yellow hand? Would you like to ask a question or make a comment?
Yeah, just a question. I'm in agreement, Madam Mayor, but on page 29, there's a fee, licensing fee and a renewal fee. There's no details in it. Was actually any recommendation or referral of any other municipality that are charging a set fee? I'm just curious to know.
Through you, Madam Mayor, the municipalities all over the province that have these bylaws, their fees run the gamut from $500 to $1,500. They're all over the map. It would be entirely council's purview to determine what's fair.
Is that including the renewal also, or that's just for the initial trailer fee?
Typically, that's for the initial. The renewal is usually something less than that.
That's for that. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Pellerin?
Madam Mayor. Is at our public meetings, are the people going to be aware of this document?
Through you, when we do public consultation, we usually post the document that's being considered prior to.
The last time, I believe we had the Field River, Living, and one Sturgeon.
Thank you.
Is that the right category?
6. Okay, was Werner well attended? Okay. So staff will come back at the next meeting with a proposal for a plan for public consultation. Okay, and we'll take a mover and seconder for recess, please. Perrin and Councillor Rivard.
It is moved by Councillor Fedin and seconded by Councillor Rivard. At approximately 8:05 PM, a motion was tabled for a 10-minute recess.
All in favor? Thank you, carried. Thank you and welcome back. We are still in committee of the whole. Moving on to section 5.1.5, discretionary grant requests. Again, there is a memo in your package, and I will pass the floor to Mr. Barbo for an overview. Thank you.
I will quickly deflect and pass it on to Ms. Craddock, who prepared this and takes care of this.
Thank you. Before we get into the individual ones there, I just want to talk a little bit about the discretionary grant process because it was a new process that this council brought in the policy in 2024. Prior to that, we had a fee waiver grant or fee waiver policy that covered the hall rentals. And then there had been other amounts that were just sort of brought to council at individual times. And so, as you can see from some, the spreadsheet and some of the things that are still sort of missing in the policy, we look for those that were exceeding $5,000 to provide us with a bit more information, to provide us with financials, and to provide us with some statement on their board, so the council and the public could kind of be assured of what organizations' money was going to, and that they were there was good care and control of the finances afterwards. It has certainly been a bit of a learning process still, both with our organizations and with our community services folks, which were supporting us in working with the organization. So I think we have still got some learning to do and some working with the organizations and kind of helping folks get the correct documentation in and things like that. In general, we'd also ask that the applications come in kind of at the end of in the fall kind of thing, so that we have everything ready for council when we go into budget, that still allow applications to come in throughout the year. And then this year, I just sort of delayed it to this point, hoping we might get some of these last little stragglers and get last little bits in. But again, we'll kind of work towards getting this to council with their budget time. That said, I've already had 2 of the organizations that are on here said, oh yeah, and we might want another hall. So we will expect that, this doesn't absorb your entire budget, that sort of throughout the year, I might bring you other discretionary grant requests if you're willing to entertain them sort of throughout the year. So I broke them down into sort of those that are sitting into the fee waiver side and those that are sitting into just straight financial ones that want sort of money or cash from the municipality. So on the ones that are looking for fee waiver, some of these are regulars for us. So Cash Value United 50s, you did approve their end of year 2024 stuff. This is one that has a regular ongoing annual amount. Community Living West Nipissing, this is a regular fundraising gala that they run. West Nipissing Sudbury East Agricultural Board meetings, this is, it's a very small amount. It's something that's been going on for years, and these are sort of routine, regular ones. I've made a note with the Cash By United 50s. It has been one that we have been doing for some time. I'm recommending that to continue doing it, but because they are over that 5,000, we will work with them on getting the required documents so that we've got a good system going forward with them. I've made the same comment on the funding request for the West Nipissing Food Bank for the same reasons. The school board ones are interesting, and again, kind of on the when we're bringing stuff to council in the fall, we did have the one request from a school, not from the school board, from a school for a they're organizing not an alumni but like a anniversary gathering. I believe it was River Valley that was organizing that. So that there was, we do have these requests from the school, and schools are a little bit of they don't really fit into our existing policy right now because the school itself is not the entity, right? So the school board is the organization. Yet the requests come from the school for things the school is doing specifically. And again, if we looked at the policy and we forced it back up so that the board was making the application, then the policy also states that you get sort of one application a year. So that would force the board to be looking at all of its schools and all of its programming and all of its stuff to put a proposal together. And I'm not sure what that would look like. So you know, we've kind of learned some things through here. We probably want to take a look, and I've talked to Mr. Poulin, to probably take a look at some of the things in the policy as far as what needs to be amended or updated. But schools are one of those things that I'm not sure how council feels about supporting schools and supporting school boards. I've put the requests in there, but just understand they don't really fit the policy, but you know, they do obviously have some community involvement, and the one that's included in your package there, they gave some really excellent explanations on what was going on and what they feel the impact is. So there was a lot for council to consider in that. The big one is that Studio Out Projects collective, and council did approve a fee waiver for just a weekend on it last year. And they came with a rather large request, and our community services folks went back out to work with them on getting more details. And I've included just the notes that came with their email on the additional details. And that's all the details that I have on it, but you can see it's a rather large ask. It is, of course, you know, council's, you know, discretion to look at all these grants, which is why they're all in front of you. This is one that I have concerns about, both on the organization, that they don't have the financial history, or are not able to produce any of the financial documents or even the budgeting for the event, yet are asking such a large amount. I also do want to bring to council's attention that when council approved a fee waiver for 2024, the event that actually happened was substantially different than what we presented to council. And as staff, our staff at the recreation complex did learn of some of the stuff just prior to the event. It gave us a lot of difficulties with getting insurance and things like that. So it was a little bit of a blind side in how they approached the event last year. But I am suggesting that it's one that you know, certainly not at the level that they are asking for. And again, within all the levels that they're here, if it's a one-off haul, it's hard to, you know, it's mostly just a yes or no. With things like Studio Project Arts Collective, where they're asking for a lot, it certainly is within council's purview to say, you know what, I agree to this part of your request, but not the rest of your request. When we're looking at financial, just straight financial support, the first three are ones that we have routinely done over the last several years. The Royal Canadian Legion is just an estimate based on the number of times that plowing might have to go out in the this current year. No More Tears is a new one. They had come to council beginning of last year, end of 2020, they had come to council a little while ago with a much larger request that council considered at that time. So they've come in just looking with a $5,000 request. This is one then that sits below that, so they don't have to provide all the additional documentation. And they have also given some fairly good details in their application as far as what they're doing and what they're all about. So it's there for your consideration as well. There are a couple here. So in 2024, River Valley Golden Ages Club received funding. It's not on this list because council approved that grant application, and so it sort of transfers. So though there is a portion that comes from the municipality in kind or in cash, it sort of transfers it out to our senior support, which is in a different budget line than here, which is why you don't see River Valley here, because they're going to get most of their funding through the provincial grant as opposed to through the municipal grant, which is it was a really bonus when we got that news from the province that they were eligible. It was a real bonus for the club and for our folks working with them. And the other is the CCL in Living. So they are one that the municipality pays for all the facility expenses at the hall, and we pay for these events directly. It is one that I would like our community services folks to continue to work with the group in Living and work on getting budgets developed and get kind of an understanding of what the ask really is, so that, you know, we can look at how we work with that organization, whether we continue our existing thing or whether we treat them a little bit like some of the Golden Ages, where we transfer funding to them and they then, you know, use the funding within their envelope. But I think, you know, because they're so integrated into our organization, it's going to take a little bit of time to work with them to sort out what they have, what we need to do with them, and that would be again our community services, our folks working with them. They were not considered part of that 70,000 that you had in your discretionary grant line. They were still considered part of the operating expenses that sat in the community services and the facilities line. So that's where they sat. So you have in front of you $41,000 of fee waiver requests, and another 22 of just straight financial support. And as I said, you know, council's discussion to sort of say yes or no, to say, yep, I agree, we only want to support it up to this amount, not the full amount, and I'll leave it with you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. That was a lot of information in a very, very short amount of time. I'm Scraddock, as we're used to. I would just like to thank you for all of this information. I did receive an email this afternoon that is pertinent to this discussion from Madeline Baudry at the OFA in regards to her request for the Sports Hall of Fame. That's not included in here. Was that one that was just received today, or was it missed on this?
So it didn't get to me. So I learned on Monday as well that it wasn't in here. So they had said, hey, oh yeah, we might need something else. And No More Tears also said, oh yeah, we might come back with something else later. So I don't have their application yet. I think it's probably in community services hand, but yes, they're one that I did hear about on Monday.
Okay, and just because she's a little anxious because the dates for that event is in March. And
oh, okay.
And so she had contacted me, said I had seen the agenda and this part of our request wasn't there. So they are, from what she's indicated to me, they are paying for the rental of the Marcel Noel Hall, and they're looking for a fee waiver on the Sports Hall of Fame on the same day to be able to expand the programming for that event. So I just wanted to bring that up so that it's also kind of part of what we're talking about. Councillor Pellerin?
Studio Project Arts. What's that?
So, sorry, through you, Madam Mayor. They their application is in here, and they are a group. They ran an event last year. And in their description, they talk about giving an outlet for the arts in the area, providing opportunities for artists to display things. And they did have that at our arena last year. They also ran, they talk about kind of a food festival. And last year they did this sort of medieval knights jousting stuff that went along. If you see in their request for this year, they are looking at a lot of facilities and a lot of halls, and they have kind of put together a bit of a proposal as far as running some day camps. Again, I don't have much more details than what you have in the package here. We did verify last year that they are actually a registered nonprofit. We did find that last year, but again, they haven't been able to get the financial statements. So I'm not sure beyond what's in your package here, what they do or what they're about.
They're registered in West Nipissing?
No, there are members from their board that live in West Nipissing, though. Yes.
Do they do that for profit?
So they are a non-profit organization, which doesn't preclude them from charging for events. And so they did charge for events. It does change how we might look at events, if they're charging versus not charging, what the actual financial implication, whether the event actually needs support or doesn't need support. So a not-for-profit can actually have a profit. There's just restrictions on how you use those profits and what the profits are used for. And again, without the financial history on an organization, I can't tell you whether they're actually compliant or how they're using their funds or what their funds go for.
And for that many asks, it's going to probably interfere for us to rent the hall, or I don't know.
A lot.
Monsieur, schedule?
If they have a schedule, what's being presented through you, Madam Mayor, what's being presented or the clips of what they provided as far as limited information does highlight some of the dates. I mean, if council approves it, we will look at making sure those dates are available before confirming with the event organizers. They basically stated that they've put a lot of requests in, willing to negotiate. So we haven't seen anything etched in stone as far as a full-blown proposal from them.
You would know more, would it interfere, like for usual rental of the hall or?
Again, without having looked at all the specific dates, some dates might have already some conflicts there. But we would have to go back and verify the total operation. They're also suggesting that they could potentially use the information center. But the information that we currently have is so limited that I'm not sure what the impact is of that type of usage for that facility. So we'd have to dig into it a bit more with them.
Thank you. It seems like a big ask for one organization there. Thank you.
Councillor.
I'm sorry. Through you, Madam Mayor. Is this organization geared towards youth or children? You know, only because I was looking at the dates for the workshops, creation and summer camps. So May 8th, 15th, 22nd, 10 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. That's all on Thursdays. So if this is geared towards youth and so on and so forth, I mean, obviously there's no kids that are going to be there if that's what it is. So I'm just wondering, are they just booking these dates to save it just in case and if something comes up and so on and so forth, right? I don't know. I'm not 100% in favor with the big ask that they're asking without providing staff with a lot more information than what they're providing right now. Again, so basically my question is this geared towards youth? Do we know?
I don't know.
We don't know. Okay, so I wouldn't be in favor at all for this until our staff are properly educated with this from the ask. I don't think our staff were given enough information. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you. Councillor Larrabee?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you. Now that it's the Rural Valley Golden Age Club is going through a grant, does it changes the procedure at the municipal level, like sending their invoice on quarterly, or is it one lump sum, or?
No, with the grant comes to the municipality quarterly, we remit it quarterly, and we ask for the financials at the same time so that by the end of the year, we've got everything in line.
Okay, so it doesn't change the format of how they're doing it right now?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor Fedai. Oh, sorry, Dan, I will get to you next. I see your hand. Councillor Fedai.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's very quick. I just want to state for the record, because I just noticed on the No More Tears application, and I'm sure most of you know this already, but when they filled out the application, they were not a registered charity, and they now do have their registered charity status since December, I believe.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Gagne?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. And I just wanted to make the comment that that is the reason why I actually brought up this request to have the budget details of these either non-for-profit or for-profit organization, so that we may analyze their budget. And if some of them can't supply us a budget, well, I know that now non-for-profit registered real non-for-profit must submit a yearly budget audited by auditors. So I would like that we respect the budget information, and if not received, that we do not entertain their requests. Thank you.
Thank you. So I guess what we could potentially do is go through that list and just, because you're looking for council approval specifically on a case by case.
Yeah, so that we can bring back a resolution at a later, and again, if it is one of these ones where that you wish to, that you feel comfortable about these ones and not the rest yet, absolutely.
Okay, so I think that's what we should do, because I think there's obviously going to be some on here that we're all pretty comfortable with, and then if there's a request for more information on specific events, we can get back. So the Hospital Foundation Shamrock and fundraiser. I see a show of hands, please. Okay, Cache Bay United Seniors 50 Club on the caveat that they will continue to work with staff on the financials. Thank you. Community Living, West Nipissing for the.
Madam Mayor,
Yes,
for the Cache Bay United, are we gonna have a budget before we approve?
how are their finances? Like, how, are there challenges that need to be overcome?
I don't expect so other than communication. So that's why I put it with kind of with the caveat there. We deal with them through this and through lottery licensing and through a variety of things so that I know the records exist. I don't think that we'll have a problem in getting them. But that, again, that's entirely council's discussion on whether you want to say, I'm not willing to provide it yet. I'll go back and chase them for the documentation and can come back at the meeting after that, you know, if council's more comfortable, yeah.
Thank you. I think Councillor Gagne's point is that we've developed a policy that does, sorry, I shouldn't speak for you probably, Councillor Gagne, but we've developed a policy that sets out the criteria, including that information. And so without having that information, why develop the policy if we're not going to follow it? Is that where you're going with your thought, Councillor Gagne?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I couldn't have said it better.
Okay, so until the fine, yes. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. Personally, and this is not just because it's Cache Bay United Club, I'm going to speak on behalf of all the others also. In my 2.5 year sitting here right now, we've been preaching that we listen to our staff and the information that they provide us and the recommendation that they provide us and so on and so forth. And Ms. Craddock provided us information earlier saying that she's comfortable moving forward. Yes, I understand the policy and so on. However, a staff member told us that she's comfortable moving forward with getting this information. So I personally think that we should move forward with it. If the staff member tells us that she's comfortable or staff is comfortable moving forward, I understand that the policy is there. If they don't provide it, then we'll deal with it, you know, in the following year. But if the staff member tells us is recommending that we do, then me personally, I think we should listen to our staff. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Larrabee.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I say if there's some documentation that's missing, I think that the organization should provide that information. So that way it will give them an example saying, well, if we want to have the service next year, I have to provide that. So if they don't provide this, all that we need, and we still give them the okay, so that's not a good example to give them. So saying, listen, we'll entertain your request as long as we have all the information. That's what I'd say.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, Councillor Pellerin.
Thank you, Madam. Ms. Craddock, are you okay with this going forward? You know more the file than any of us.
Well, the two that I put in the list, you know, the Cache Bay United 50s and the West Nipissing Food Bank, you know, the reason why I said I recommend approving those conditional upon getting the satisfactory documentation is those are ones that we have funded always, and that they're kind of built in. But I don't think there'll be a problem in getting the documentation from either group. So absolutely, council doesn't have to do them now. We'll bring back this list and I'll bring back when I say, yep, I've got all the boxes ticked. It's probably a difference of one meeting to the next meeting kind of thing. So, you know, I don't anticipate having any problem getting the documentation from either group.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think, and the recommendation in the report is approving them conditional based on getting that information. So, you know, I think that's where we move forward, and Ms. Craddock will work with both those groups. And you know, I know you've said that you've dealt with the Cache Bay United 50, and I've spoken with the food bank, and we know that information is available. So conditional on the
paperwork.
On the paperwork. Can I see a show of hands for Cache Bay United 50? Thank you. Community Living West Nipissing for their gala.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Just before we continue, Madam Mayor, we are not following the policy that was put in place. I would be lenient to saying this year because it's a transition and we didn't use the ask for the budget. There maybe be an extension for this year and this year only. but that the following years that the budget be submitted on time with the application.
No, but I think what we're asking Ms. Craddock here is that she will not bring, these will all come back as a resolution to, for council, because we're only in committee now. So Ms. Craddock will not bring back the food bank or the Cash Bay United 50 until the paperwork, conditional on the paperwork. So we're saying, yes, bring those to us as a resolution, but not until you have the paperwork to your satisfaction.
Okay, thank you.
That's how I read it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for the clarification. I'm good with that.
Okay. Thank you. So we had Community Living West Nipissing Gala for their spring gala. Show of hands, please. Okay, École élémentaire Catholique Saint-Joseph, tournoi échec. Thank you. Show of hands, please. Okay, thank you. Studio Project Arts Collective, Inc. Okay, we're going to pass on that until more information is provided. West Nipissing Sudbury East Federation of Agriculture Board meeting. It shows there as $96, but I will state again that there is an additional request for the Sports Hall of Fame that I would hope would come back with that resolution. And so I just, because it's in March. Thank you. Yes. Oh, sorry.
Hands up.
Jamie, do you have a question? Thank you. How's the rest all? Or are you pre-voting?
No, through you, Madam Mayor, I'm just speed voting again.
Okay. Okay, so West Nipissing Sudbury East Federation of Agriculture, both for their board meetings and the additional request for their seminars. Thank you. Okay, and then on to the financial support requests. Again, the West Nipissing Food Bank will be subject to the verification of their financials. West Nipissing Food Bank. Thank you. Royal Canadian Legion for their plowing services. Thank you. Fille d'Isabelle for rent supplement. Thank you. And No More Tears West Nipissing for $5,000 financial support. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Thank you. Okay, so I think that's everything you need on that file. Okay, and those will come back, most of them as resolutions next time, and if it takes a little longer for the couple where you're still awaiting the financials, it'll be the meeting after that. Councillor Bard.
Thank you. Through you. So I wasn't doing any quick math there. I was just wondering, I know we budgeted 70,000 for that. So what would that bring us to? Just on track.
Oh, my next thing already. Because we're taking the 25 out for the one group right now.
A little under 38.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And you know, I will say just before we close on that, I think it will be hard to get everything in by budget time because as events are planned not always a year in advance or more than a year in advance. If we're approving something for November of 2026, are they going to have that request in reasonably by November 2025? Probably not. So I think for a lot of the repeats, if we can get those approved during budget process and then leave ourselves some space for things that come up during the year, I think that's picked up on an ongoing basis. Move on to the next item on the agenda, the last under general government, 5.1.6, policy for property tax adjustments. Mr. Barbeau.
So this is actually a little it's just a little bit of an internal policy because MPAC has changed their process a little bit. So under section 357 of the Municipal Act, there's a variety of things where people can ask for reductions in their assessment, translating into reduction of taxes. And MPAC still does all of that and issues us statements, and we get supplementals and omits and various other things from MPAC. However, what they did change was their process on when buildings have been rendered unusable by fire, demolition, or other means, and repairs and renovations preventing normal use for a period of at least 3 months. So the MPAC stopped issuing reassessments on these properties and started sending the municipality just notional reassessments and kind of said, you're on your own. And so municipalities are dealing with these differently depending on where they are and how big they are. Some of the larger municipalities, like think the regions and various things like that, they've got assessors within their workforce that goes out and determines on whether they're going to agree with MPAC or not agree with MPAC. And we don't have those resources or that internal knowledge. We have always gone with the MPAC reassessments on those unusable by fire or other means. And so the policy is just kind of making it clear then what we're going to use in that case is we are going to use the notional assessment that MPAC sends us. They used to send us a real assessment. They're saying it's a notional assessment, but we are going to use their notional assessment rather than start trying to create our own values on these properties.
Okay, and for properties that are unusable due to fire or demolition, in our municipality, you require a permit for demolition. Right. And our fire service would likely respond, so you're already, there's a system by which your department looking after the property rules is communicated either by the fire chief or the chief building official on either the issuance of a permit or an occurrence of fire that has rendered a building unusable.
Yes, so right now the ones that file under demolition, they must have a demolition permit before we consider those. And when they're claiming under the fire, then they have to come with their reports from the fire department. So yes.
Okay, thank you. Other questions or comments on this policy? Councillor Ferreira.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. Can you explain the difference between a notional assessment and
Be lost.
She talks fast, it won't take long.
So that's the point of the policy, is that MPAC used to come back and say, they are now assessed at this. And they used to just give it to us. MPAC is now saying, notionally, this is the assessment. Right. And so from our point of view, I want to use the numbers as the same number. That they're going to give us a notional assessment. I want to use it like MPAC's giving us a real assessment on it. MPAC is just labeling them as notional now, so that municipalities that have got the staffing can do what they like with these properties. And I would just like to follow the notional assessment.
So just to follow up, so can the taxpayer appeal this notional assessment? And who would the appeal to municipality? What would you do if somebody wasn't happy with the?
I would send them back up to MPAC the same way that they send through to appeal any of
Then they
the
go to our.
assessments. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Other questions or comments? Any proposed changes to the policy as presented? Okay, with that, I would take a show of hands, just that we'll bring it back as a resolution at our next meeting. Is that a question or a vote, Dan? Sorry, Councillor Conn. Okay, all in favor, bring it back. Thank you. Okay, so that can come back at the next meeting as a resolution. Hey, well, I'm done. Who's planning? Next, we'll move on to 5.2. We have one item under the planning committee, and for that, I will pass it to our chair, Councillor St. Louis. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As you mentioned, we have one item under Planning Committee, 5.2.1, Casa Development Properties, and I will be more than happy to pass it to Ms. Willock to provide us with more information.
Thank you. In the agenda, there is a brief memo which outlines the request. Essentially, Mr. Morrison, who is Casa Developments, is nearing completion of his subdivision. So last meeting, we looked at reducing the contingency amount for his securities. This is separate from that. That's a done deal, we'll say. This is making 2 requests for special provisions in the subdivision agreement, one of which is there is a parkland block which is being dedicated to the municipality as part of the subdivision. there was inadvertently sanitary services installed at this block that was not required by the municipality. In order to recoup the cost of installing that service, he is asking that should we surplus this lands in the future, that he have first right of refusal to purchase the lands at market value. I'm not supportive of this request, given that we do already have our surplus lands policy in effect, and this would be going against that policy. The second request is in order to service these 89 lots, he was required to install a sewage pumping station, a lift station. And in order to recoup those costs, if there are properties adjacent to this current site, which may be severed in the future, which would connect into this pump station. And this request is that for the next 15 years, should any developer other than himself create new lots which connect into this pump station, that the municipality introduces a fee and charges bylaw, which would allow us to recoup those costs. And then after that 15-year period, whichever was paid to us for that service, we would be passing along 90% of that. So we would keep 10% as an administrative fee. Just to recoup his costs, I believe that this is does have substantial staff effort. So again, also not recommending this request, but happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Councillor Fennay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would just come on the second point. I would just echo what Madam Clerk said earlier. We're not a bank.
Thank you. Who owns the pumping station? Like who owns the infrastructure asset, like once the subdivision is all finished?
We do.
We do? Okay.
Yes, it will be dedicated to us once the subdivision agreement is executed.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Sorry.
My apologies,
Councillor,
I got so used to
Councillor
sharing
Russell,
my apologies.
Through you, Mr. Chair, thank you. I definitely agree with staff recommendations, and not only with the recommendations, but also with the previous decisions that were made and the precedent in terms of dealing with these type of requests. So I would be not supportive of the two requests that are being brought forward.
Thank you. Yvonne?
Thank you. Through you, I know it's a little off topic here, but I know it's been mentioned a couple times to myself by the developer with an interest of putting a trail from that parkland to 3rd Street, and has this never, I'm just wondering if this has ever come up, or if the municipality, something like that. It made great sense to me when it was brought up. I just find that a shame if it doesn't come back.
Well, unfortunately, it's really, I wouldn't have any info. I have heard of the issue, but it's not part of this agenda, so I'm not ready for it.
Thank you. Anyone? Councillor Larrabee?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The second part of people connecting to this pumping station later on. If the contractor was to help out with the secretary or whatever to come out with figures, because this is, like you said, it's time consuming for staff to move on this. But if the contractor was to help out and we just check the figures, that they're right. It's just to help out, because in this situation, with the economy the way it is, if we can help this situation, it's the contractor, well, we're helping, but it probably would make a big difference, because we need housing, we need contractors to move forward with project. So if we could be contract friendly or try to move forward with this, I'm sure that maybe some agreement could be reached between the staff and the contractor. Just an idea. So, to try to appease everyone on this situation.
I don't know whether I should, but I simply can't let that pass. If the municipality is levying fees on residents, the municipality is collecting the money and responsible to the residents, I'm not allowing a third-party contractor to run the books for us.
Okay,
Like, absolutely not.
thank you.
It's a rat's nest, Mr. Chair, with respect to this. We've had, I've been here a long time. We've had situations on the Long Road, Dutrazac, a few others that it used to be done that way. And it was not a very good situation with respect to being put into that position. And as a staff recommendation, it's just not clean. And I wouldn't recommend those requests. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, so I guess,
Councillor Gagne.
oh, sorry, Councillor Gagne.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll just echo Councillor Ressoul's comment. The developer did have a plan for his subdivision, should have been thought ahead of time. And I support staff's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, did you have something? You lifted your hand.
No, I was just pointing
okay.
at Councillor
Thank
Gagne
you.
for you.
So is anybody else? I don't think so. So I guess my question was just going to be when Mr. Barbo did answer, if this had been done in the past, and if it has, was it an issue and was it a big problem to try to assist, like Councillor Abby said, with, and not so much with going and helping with the books and whatnot, just with more the fact of the province is looking at, our housing crisis and so on, and if we can assist any contractors. However, if it was an issue in the past, then I totally understand it.
Well, it was an issue in the past, and I think that we need to have some respect for agreements and plans of subdivision that come into play that are contemplated with services that we're going to assume. Unfortunately, I respect any developer or investor in doing that, but we're not a bank, and there were set plans on how to handle water and sewer, and that was done in a plan and in a design, and that was also known all the way through. So making those halfway adjustments, we do get developers or planners that like to come and play on the edges a little bit and try and always work with staff to try and cut. And I can tell you that we're very developer friendly here. We don't have development charges. There are a lot of things that we do that are pro-development, but if we start adjusting these kind of things, it's just we're taking 2 steps back. And I feel strongly from an administrative perspective, it's just not done this way.
So my question then, Mr. Barbo or Ms. Craddock, is, and I totally support the staff's decision, don't get me wrong. If this was something that was brought up prior to the development and all the engineering and all that stuff, is that something that as a planning, not the planning board, but as our planner, is that something that they could have worked with a contractor to say, okay, listen, here's what it, or will assist with the cost in this sense? However, all the money, like you're saying, it comes to us, no ifs, ands, or buts. I'm just wondering if.
I guess technically or legally in a pre-approved agreement, you could have contemplated those things, but that's a very, how would you say? It's a question in a vacuum. Depends on what the economic development is, what the need is and all of that. Making a general statement that we need housing, that's fine, but we are developing a lot of housing, including this. And we also have a lot of other developers too. And there's also precedents and all that kind of thing. So the reason planning and subdivisions exist the way they are is for a purpose, and it seems to exist in Ontario. I certainly wouldn't entertain it. It'd have to be a really, and I wouldn't, it'd be a planner who would recommend, but I can't see any planner actually recommending that. It'd have to be really extraneous circumstances for us to want to consider something like that.
Excellent. Anybody else? So, I guess a show of hands on who is supportive of this recommendation.
Of staff's recommendation?
Yes, of the staff's recommendation.
Not to go in.
Yes, the staff's recommendation is not to move forward. Pass. Back to you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, we'll move on to number 6, our regular meeting, 6.1, our consent agenda.
It is moved by Councillor Ferrin and seconded by Councillor Larrabee. Be it resolved that the consent agenda for the council and committee of the whole meeting held on February the 4th, 2025 be approved as presented.
Any questions or comments? All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Nothing under planning, correspondence, or unfinished business. Moving to point 5, new business.
It is moved by Councillor St. Louis and seconded by Councillor Ferrin. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2024-95 being a bylaw to delegate duties and powers to administration for the municipality of West Nipissing shall come into force on the day it is passed.
Questions or comments? All in favor? Carried.
It is moved by Councillor Pellerin and seconded by Councillor Rivard. Whereas requests for quotations were sought for brushing and ditching, and whereas 6 quotations were received, and whereas council concurs with the recommendation received, be it resolved that the quotations for brushing and ditching be awarded as follows. Ed Segang and Sons, Dokis Road, $112,392.80. Nipissing Street, $54,256.80. And Tomico Road, $67,966.61. And for deep construction, Levac Road at $116,575 and Canal Road at $83,245.
Questions, comments? All in favor? Carried. Thank you.
It is moved by Councillor Rivard and seconded by Councillor Pellerin. Whereas requests for quotations were sought for structural repairs to the Tomico Bridge, and whereas 5 quotations were received, and whereas council concurs with the recommendations, be it resolved that the quotations for the structural repairs of the Tomico Bridge be awarded to Nipissing Contracting Solutions Limited in the amount of $60,000 plus HST, being the lowest quotation meeting all specifications.
Thank you. I do have one question for staff. Shall I address it to you, Ms. Henning?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. Is there any concern with the fact that the successful bid is so far below everybody else? Because to me, it looks a little alarming.
Through you, this is actually above what our budget was for this.
Okay.
So I'm comfortable with this, and I've checked references on the contract.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions or comments? All in favor? Carried. Thank you.
It is moved by Councillor Pellerin and seconded by Councillor Rivard. Whereas requests for quotations were sought for the asphalt sheeting of Leclerc Road, and whereas 3 quotations were received, whereas council concurs with the recommendation received, be it resolved that the quotation for the asphalt sheeting of Leclerc Road be awarded to Miller Paving in the amount of $1,667,106 plus HST, being the lowest quote meeting all specifications.
Thank you very much. And the budget on that was 1.6.
It was 1.5 or a little over 1.5.
1.5. And you're comfortable with that as to how other projects are coming out?
Yes, how other projects are coming out at this point, I think will be okay.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All in favor? Carried. Thank you.
It is moved by Councillor Pellerin and seconded by Councillor Rivard. Be it resolved that council authorizes the execution of the Municipal Forest Fire Management Agreement with His Majesty the King and Right of Ontario as represented by the Minister of Natural Resources.
Questions or comments? All in favor? Carried.
It is moved by Councillor Rivard and seconded by Councillor Pellerin. Whereas council received resolution numbers 2025-14 and 2025-15 from the West Nipissing OPP Detachment Board seeking adjustment to the board remunerations, be it resolved that council hereby approves the adjusted West Nipissing OPP Detachment Board remunerations as requested.
Questions or comments? Councillor Pellerin?
I had a thought on this there. When I think it was okay.
148.
It was proposed no changes, 150 for board members, and then we're gonna go 200. Wait, the next one.
Oh, below. Basics.
While Councillor Pellerin is looking for his information, I'll just ask, we actually pay the costs of the board, the municipality pays the cost of the board.
The municipality pays for the board, the municipality pays the honorarium for the board members. And with the change to the OPP detachment board and the change of legislation, then the board sets its level of expenditures except for honorariums, which are then under council's purview. And just because I realized that it wasn't as clear what was happening, because the current honorarium for the chair is $150 per meeting, and the request is to go to $150 per month. And the same with the secretary. Currently, the secretary is paid $300 per meeting. They have 4 meetings per year, and the request is to go to $200 per month. So the chair and the secretary are asking for a change to a per month. And then the rest of the board members are going to stay at the $150 per meeting. And then the $200 is a one-time, because as they the new legislation, there was actually a lot of online training that the board members were required to do before they could meet as a board again. They had to do a lot. So that's what the $200 with that is. But I realized my explanation wasn't as clear with the change of the chair and the secretary. Their amounts used to be per meeting for 4 meetings a year, and now it's a per month for the chair and the secretary.
The secretary gets more than the chair.
She does.
Okay, so my question is, for board members, it's $150 on page 149.
Per meeting.
Per meeting.
Yeah.
And on the next page, it's $200 for each board members.
A one-time training payment for them to recognize all the training that they had to do this year. Is it one-time training?
Yes, if I may, Madam Mayor.
So, thank you, Councillor St. Louis, one of our representatives.
So what it was is with the new legislation that came in, if you don't mind, Mr. Chair. Okay, with the new legislation that came in, we had to complete 4 online courses that took over 10 hours of our time, which you do on your own time sitting at home. So that is a one-time remuneration for our 10 hours sitting at home. And the changes were done for, because of the new legislation, the chair and the secretary are doing a lot more work on their time. So as opposed to just the 4 meetings per month or per year. So they do a lot more work. So that's why we agreed to change it to per month.
Okay, thank you.
And what's the overall financial impact of those changes? Because obviously we've approved this through our budgeting process already, so.
So when I received this, I also received a revised budget from the board where they actually took out things like meals and those kind of expenses so that they can do all this within their existing budget.
Okay, thank you very much. That's good. Any other questions or comments? Okay, there's a resolution on the table. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you.
This moved by Councillor Pellerin and seconded by Councillor Rivard. Whereas at the January 23rd, 2025 meeting, Council discussed and approved the water and wastewater budget. Be it resolved that pursuant to discussions, Council directs staff to explore more equitable and alternative water and wastewater billing models.
Okay, questions or comments on that? Do we have a timeline on that one?
No, Madam Mayor, I appreciate that, but probably, given our, it'd probably be looking like a May.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions or comments?
Sorry.
Oh, Councillor Rivard.
Thank you, too. This does include like billing each home as well, right? Like some sort of more information.
Looking at the entire
Meter.
model and options.
Okay, thank you.
Excuse me, ma'am, is this include like what we discussed, like a metered home?
I'm sure there will be what the costs would be for metering. I think it's been costed in the past.
We're looking at.
Yeah, so it will be a robust report on different options to make the water system a little more equitable. Okay, other questions or comments? All in favor? Carried. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is, I think, the mayor's report.
There.
No, but I would like to invite Mr. Bravo to give a couple words, please.
Well, this didn't take much more than 40 or 50 minutes. No, I just want to officially announce to council, staff, and the residents of West Nipissing that after 25 years of CAO, I'll be retiring this year. My retirement date will be December 19th this year. And had a great run, and I will continue to have a great run. That's why I'll make it short and sweet. Looking forward to continuing to work with this mayor and this council. It's been a breath of fresh air this term, and without saying more. And we still have a lot of initiatives. I want to kind of finish in a figurative sprint. I don't sprint anymore. And try and get as many of the projects done in the term plan before my departure. And happy to work with the council in any way, shape, or form in the transition process. But thanks very much. It's my official announcement. So now there's no going back. I'm officially going to be leaving on December 19th.
Thank you very much. I'll say a few words in regards to it because I know that Mr. Barbo's enjoyed working with our council, and I can see why I enjoy working with all of you every day. But, there's no denying that we've also been a lot of work. 2 years ago, we welcomed in a council with 8 of the 9 members never having sat on council before. And the work that he's done with us in the past 2 years to get us where we are. We all had a lot to learn, and the work he's put in to date with this iteration of council has been really appreciated. Can't be underestimated. The contributions that Mr. Barbo has made over 25 years in this organization. I mean, he's been here almost since amalgamation, and really seen the community through that transition from many small disparate communities into one. And a lot of successes along the way. We will have more time to talk about all those when we get to November, December, and I'm sure we'll take the opportunity to all sing his praises at that time. I will say I look forward to the year that we have ahead of us. I think that we get stronger as a team, as a staff team, as a council team, in the way that we work together the longer that we have. And I just know it will be a great year. And I will say that I also appreciate the fact that recognizing what a huge process this is going to be to hire a new CAO and what a big job it's going to be for this council. I just really like to extend my thanks to Mr. Barbeau for giving this council such a long runway to undertake such an important process. And so we look forward to working with you over the coming year. And I think that's the biggest mayor's report announcement we've had to date. So I will leave it at that. There's not a whole lot more to say, but thank you all very much for your work tonight, both staff and council.
It is moved by Councillor Rivard and seconded by Councillor Perrin. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2025-14, being a bylaw of the West Nipissing Municipality, to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting held on February the 4th, 2025, shall come into force and take effect on the date spelled.
All in favor? Carried. Thank you.
It is moved by Councillor Perrin and seconded by Councillor Rivard. Be it resolved that the council and committee of the whole meeting held on February 4th, 2025, be adjourned.
All in favor? Carried. Thank you again so much. Good night.